So ladies and gentlemen, today on Happy Monkey Happy Hour with Vlad, I got two amazing people that have inspired me and Happy Monkey, big supporters, most importantly, have made a crazy imprint on this industry and created a lot of opportunities for people like color like myself. First off, we have Leo Bridgewater, National Director for Outreach for Reina Media, also National Director for Veterans Outreach, advocate to the max, my brother Leo Bridgewater.
What's good, everybody? I'm also a proud member of the Happy Munkey family, and I'm also the National Director of Veterans Outreach with Minorities for Medical Marijuana.
Absolutely.
And so, I want to make sure that we give props to the next guest here. Because
okay. Yeah. That's how we're saving her for. We're saving her for last, but not least. Because you say the best for last.
Yeah, I know, right?
We have my sister from another mother. She is CEO and founder of Medical for Minorities for Medical Marijuana.
Yeah.
Also has opened the door for so many people like myself. My sister from another mother, Roz McCarthy.
Hey,
yeah.
What's up, Vlad? Hey, Happy Monkey After Dark is popping, man. What's going on?
I'm trying to tell you, man, this is the only way. Like I was telling Leo earlier, I miss all my friends and family, and I'm like, why not, on top of like me checking up on them, let the world and the whole Happy Monkey family know what they're doing and let them know that we still fighting the good fight.
That's
while we catch up with each other.
That's right. That's right. But first, how's the family? I know you're right there in New York with this COVID-19. How are you, your family, your loved ones, friends, or whatever? Prayers and just keeping you guys as the epicenter of what's going on in our hearts and our minds.
Well, thank God, Roz. Up to now, all friends and family are good. You know what I mean? That's why what we're trying to do is make the best of a bad situation, and we're still trying to, keep people uplifted through the media. There's no events for the foreseeable future, so we got to try to do what we can, what we have, and keep people uplifted and inspired during these bad times. They get enough doom and gloom from the news. At least people like us can keep them uplifted and let them know that it's still all right. They still got to keep their heads up.
Right. No, that's what's up. That's what's up, brother.
How about yourself? How's it going over there, Roz?
Everything's good. Florida, we didn't get hit hard, but it's been, of course, it's just the new normal and adjusting to that. I have my daughter is away with her dad, my son is with me, and so it's been good. We're just fortunate and blessed. And there's some people that have really been going through it. Last night, 2 nights ago, we had an M for MM kind of meetup with all of our M for MM leadership team and our board of directors and some of our advisory board. It was just cool because we were all on Zoom and everybody kind of went around and just said, hey, what they're grateful for, how they're staying sane, what they're doing to keep to not get so caught up in the negativity of what's going on and just start thinking doom and gloom. Some people have been affected, we have Imani Dawson, who is our communications director. Her family's lost 3 family members. And
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
Dawsons are definitely good
right.
Friends and family.
Shout out to Imani and Ice and Dashita Dawson and the whole Dawson girls and their family. But yeah, so it was just nice to see everybody on screen talking to one another, kind of saying, listen, we're here. And that's what, for everybody that's out there, get your families together, get on Zoom, it's free, get on whatever you got to get on, see one another, love one another, appreciate one another, and be grateful for this moment.
How's everything going over there in Jersey, Leo?
It's crazy because, when you look at Jersey and New York, we're basically one whole community. This is where, you're starting to see now that, ever since I was young, we when it comes to Jersey and New York, we rag on each other, Jersey stinks, New York is loud.
But the tri-state area is like it's all
right.
But then
something like this happens and it's like, man, we done came together, like that's when you find out how it really is. And like the caucasity of some of the things that I'm seeing, particularly how they're happening in New York, like they're testing tigers in the Bronx before they're testing people. You know what I'm saying? You have people that if a family member passes away and you don't claim that body within like 3 or 4 days, they're putting them in those mass graves up there in the Bronx. You know what I'm saying? Like that is for real happening. Now, just a week and a half ago, they told the whole world that African Americans, people of color, the community, inner cities, they're getting hit hard, and it's ravaging us, right? They said that just like a week and a half ago. But today, you got people trying to get back to business, trying to open up. So it's like, like they just a week ago, this stuff was killing a whole bunch of Americans.
Right now,
but now y'all want to go back to work.
Is that we all know they put currency over humanity all the time.
There you go.
So I'm not surprised with that.
Right. So at this point, and neither am I. But what I'm interested in is now that it's in your face, now that it's so blatant, to include them telling you that you should put Lysol in yourself and UV lights. You know what I'm saying? And then and at the time he was dead ass serious when he said that. Okay?
He was dead ass.
Yeah, he meant it.
He was dead ass serious.
He was dead serious. You know what I'm saying? So no matter how they try to spin it, that dude was dead serious. Okay? We all know DT. We know how he talked. And so now you look at where we are right now, it's like, how many times does somebody got to give you their ass to kiss before you realize they don't really care about you? So what you gonna do? That's what I'm interested in seeing is what are black and brown people gonna do after all this, after the dust settles from this?
Right.
Because we do got like 6 months to get as many of us registered and regain and take back our political power. Because you got to pay people in the currency that they accept, which is in votes.
Yes, that is correct, 1,000%. Now, I wanted to ask you guys, happy belated 420, by the way, and I wanted to ask you guys, as being 2 seasoned veterans in this industry, what did you guys think about the first virtual 20?
You know what? I thought it was pretty dope. The fact that normally there are events that are going on that are in different parts of the country, and this year we were able to participate in some meaningful ways with events at multiple times. We had different people within the organization able to participate. Do I think the virtual thing is always going to be the mainstay for 420? No. I think just by attrition, cannabis users, there's a camaraderie, there is a spiritual, there's a in Rastafarian, in Jamaica, for Rastafarians, it's a spirituality to talking together and being together. I think that's always going to be the foundation of this industry. I think we utilize a technology to still feel connected, but it will never get away from those in-person opportunities to be able to be together, to consume together, to talk, to share, and hopefully to celebrate successes from an economic standpoint, from a policy, just making some things happen. So I was definitely excited about what I saw over 420, but I know that in person you can never replace that.
Yeah, I agree. I think I was interested in seeing how everybody was going to how people were going to evolve, like how are people going to adapt to what was coming. And then I thought about the what, to Roz's point, the communal aspect of the culture. Yep. and cannabis. Ciphers are not going to be the same again. Okay, it's not. You know what I'm saying? And I do think that, and this is what I was looking and listening to on 420 was everybody, cannabis businesses, and everybody is going to have to make a real investment in patient and consumer confidence. And the cannabis industry literally walked into this entire situation, this entire COVID-19 crisis, already having a plastic issue. You understand what I'm saying? Plastic was already a problem we had. Now, I'm saying all that because we were all, before the greatest 420 of all time, we were all preparing, you know what I'm saying, for, you know, to be around each other. But instead, we all been forcibly educated on how viruses and all that stuff work. And now, when they lift this up, what are we going to do? Are we going to go back to exactly the way it was before all this kicked off? Nah. I just don't.
There's going to be a new normal.
Yeah. And what is that going to look like? You know, I always think about Big Mike down there at 420. Whenever we smoked together, he'd be like, yeah. And he had that piece, and he would stick the blunt in it, and then he would give you the blunt. And I'm like, where's that at now? Because I can see everybody, and he keeps it around his neck, right? You know, so it's like, okay, that's where I can see it happening. I can see all this. I can see where it's going to go.
Now I'm going to give y'all my opinion on what I saw. I felt like I was so proud of the industry and to be a part of it. Because even though we're one of the smallest industries, and as far as like, you know, main society considers itself, I think that the unity was so big, and everybody was trying to use their platforms for things like charities, awareness, and so many positive things. So it was like, you know, it really showed the strength of like Roz said, the industry as a whole, because unlike when there's events and everybody has to be at certain places, it's like everybody found a way to come together and maneuver around the situation and put their best foot forward online. And I think it was a good show of the industry as a whole, like in a time of crisis, instead of people worried about being selfish, and that everybody was trying to see what they could do to help one another, to help society, to help the less fortunate, or to do whatever they can, you know? So I was really, really proud to see that. You know,
I was proud, but I wasn't surprised. You know what I'm saying? I was very proud, but I wasn't surprised. And what I will tell you is, the other word that I would use that I felt after during 420 and after 420, I felt proud. I wasn't surprised, but I also felt secure. And let me tell you why. Because when you think about the tribe or the culture, you know what I'm saying? When you listen to everybody talk, especially when we all get on meetings, like Roz just did a meeting with the entire leadership, just like you said the other day. But then you get on the phone, and in these times you find out who got what, and you know them. Then you realize you got more. There's more help out there than you're not as alone as you thought you were. You know what I'm saying? And it's not. And I realized, you know, like, damn, if I was really messed up, man, you know, at least I know I got these people behind me. You know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't until a crisis came along that you find out who has access to what. And
you know what else I love seeing, and you know, like me and you were talking about it earlier, Leo, and I'm sure you'll agree, Roz, is that, remember there was this meme that somebody put up on Instagram, and the meme was like, it was a person of color, was like, people of you know, like Caucasian people, don't take it offense. We're used to singing during time of crisis because that's just what we're used to, and because we've been through so much.
Yep. That's how we get through it. Like we sang ourselves through slavery. We sang ourselves through, you know, the Jim Crow era. We sang ourselves through the civil rights movement. You know what I'm saying? And now look at us. You see what I'm saying? So it's like there is if you look at the pattern throughout history, the common denominator is, you know what I'm saying? And mind you, this is all after we were getting our asses kicked. And we still had singing in our hearts, you know what I'm saying? And there was messages. If you go back to the slave days, when they did all that singing and the tapping and banging of the drums and stuff like that, that was messages to other slaves. So
now, I will say this: we do need to be, not only during this time, but we as a people, as a community, look at how do we also take this quiet time that we're forced to take, and how we utilizing this to come out better on the other side. And if we don't take this time, normally we don't have the time because we're always in go motion. We're picking up kids. We're now being forced. So, for example, I had one of our advisory members wrote a quotation. I put it on our Instagram, and it said, have you ever thought that God stopped the world to help Black people catch up? And so I had some people who were really, that some people got it, and they were like, I know exactly where you're coming from. Some people took offense because they were like, well, why are you trying to play down the fact that Black people are dying? That's not that. The issue is, and think about this, we are disproportionately affected by Corona. We're disproportionately dying. And the underlying issues are health equity issues that we've been having for the last 80 to 100 years. So again, not saying that this was an act of God because he's trying to say, okay, I'm doing it for the Black people, but take the opportunity now to shed a light on an issue that has always been an issue for the last 60, 80 years. Take the point right now, if you weren't healthy, now you don't have to worry about, I gotta be somewhere. You can go outside, you can go in your garage or whatever. You can get healthy. You could change your eating habits. You know, if there's a business that you wanna do, you have now time to breathe life into that business. And so I just think sometimes that as much as we talk about the cannabis community of, you know, surrounding each other, supporting one another, walk away from this Corona pandemic and this quarantine with some type of action item that's going to further your agenda, your opportunity, partnerships, things as, because at some point in time, the industry is going, everything is going to start up again. So
let me add something to that. Vladimir, Roz, just a few weeks ago, we got 30 million people filed for unemployment, right?
Yes.
Throughout the country, right? When this is over with, all 30 million gonna have their jobs back?
No.
So now, what percentage of that 30 million people who are now unemployed, ask yourself, what percentage of those people will have been home so long that they don't even want to go back to a job? And to Roz's point, what if this COVID-19 crisis was the one thing that they needed to push them into the direction of entrepreneurship, even when it comes to the cannabis industry? Because everybody was talking about the green rush and this is so new and we are in the infancy stage and everything. So for those of us who are already doing it already, we have to even be prepared for that new rush of new entrepreneurs and new workers. You know what I'm saying? Because we're going to be training a first generation workforce that's multi-generational.
Right.
It's going to be filled with people who are going through career crises or have changed jobs, or this was the only job that they could find when everything lifted back up. How many of these businesses figured out how much money they save by keeping their employees home, or that they don't need so many employees? And because everybody's going to have to fill out a post-COVID COVID-19 action plan.
I believe, I definitely agree with you, Roz. I think that, I'm an optimist, positive, optimistic person. So I'm going to go a step deeper than what you said, maybe it was something for our people, but let's just put as society as a whole, right? Mm. I've been looking around and I live by the river and I walk with my daughter and I never seen so much wildlife in my life. They say that for the first time in history, you can see the stars and the moon in China. You can see the canals in Venice in the water clear.
Yep, you can see the fish. Yep.
So it's like the first time in 100 or 200 years that Mother Nature is getting a break from the abuse that we do to it on a constant basis. So
Greta won.
who knows? Like you said, I'm just trying to, like you said, look at the positive things. There's a reason for everything.
Right, it's a reason for everything, and so I because I'm so in tune, and just of course our community and Black folks in general, because we are behind on so many different indexes. But you're absolutely right. If you look at just the world in general and things in general, they did an article. I read an article that talked about India, where in the first time in 75 years, they were able to see the actual not stars, but the clouds in the sky. Like actually see a blue sky.
Yeah,
due to the fact that everybody was quarantined.
Yeah.
That's some amazing shit. Like really, like
exactly.
70. I mean, so if it sheds a light back on environmental issues, if it sheds a light back on protecting our wildlife, if it sheds a light on the fact that if you were not in the stock exchange, or if you weren't invested in stocks, now you have a time where we're at the all-time low to go buy a Microsoft share of stocks that you can afford. I'm just saying, economic, socioeconomic, medical, there's so many things that we have to look at this. And instead of doing the conspiracy theory, instead of, think about where you're going to be on the other side of this. And I really want to segue, Vlad, into cannabis legalization and the cannabis community on the issues that are most important to the industry, which has always been social justice, social equity. Health equity has to be a conversation right now. And the fact that we have medical programs in states like New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania that are not servicing our minority communities, who we've already seen have health equity issues. We should go back before we legalize for adult use. There should be a moratorium. There should be a hyper focus on the medical programs and putting access to the plant from a medical perspective in our communities and helping physicians and making social equity be a part of that plan, so that if you are a social equity, you don't even get an option. If you're not someone that's from the community, you don't get a chance to serve that community and get a license to serve it. Because we have people that need to know about the plant that don't have any clue. And it's just been shown that we have health equity issues, that we're not up to date on what's going on the options, on the advances. And so this is really an opportunity for us to revisit this situation.
So basically what you're saying, Roz, is like, let's make sure you get the medical right before you even jump to recreational, because you haven't even got that right.
Right. I mean, how can you be in New York and with the millions and millions of people there, and knowing that all the different, you got from PTSD to cancer to pain to seizures and epilepsy and all this stuff, and the number of cultivators, the number of retail outlets, you don't even have enough that can deal with some of the medical
I think
issues.
there's like 100,000 patients in the state, 150,000 patients in a state that has probably like 20 million people.
Florida is 21 million people. We have 21 million. We're the third most populous. You guys have more than us. You have like about 24. We have almost 400,000 people in the registry in Florida.
Look at that.
I mean, and they're not going to push. And I'm not saying adult use should not be an option, but I'm saying right now, I shouldn't say I don't care, but I'm saying if you look at communities where there's something that the United States government, when they do grants, they have something called medically underserved areas or medically underserved populations. They're MUAs or MUPs. What that means is it's an area that's been designated by the Department of Health of saying that there's health inequities and healthcare disparities. And what they do is they push funding and money towards those communities to provide federally qualified healthcare centers, doctors, low-cost medicine, things of that nature. If you look at a map and if you find an MUP, and if there's not a dispensary in 1 to 2 miles of that medically underserved area, then there should be a license that's put for that area for a dispensary. And then have, in my opinion, have a social equity applicant apply for that license and go back into their community and service that community with a retail option of access to the medicine. Not saying that we stop the adult use side and bring in the adult use, but we have a healthcare issue that has to be addressed. And if we're going to look at this plant as an option for healthcare needs, we need to make sure that there's access to the plant, access to physicians in our community.
And if you look at, and just look at New Jersey, Vlad, when this whole thing kicked off, remember how they did us? We weren't considered an essential business at first. And then all hell broke loose, and then they went back and fixed that whole thing real quick.
Right.
And then you look at what happened in New York. You
Not
know,
considered, not considered. It's not essential in New York.
Number one, it's not considered essential in New York, and then number two, the COVID-19 crisis pushed everything to the back burner.
Right.
Now, the reason why I'm highlighting that is because you got groups like Ramp and Sam, like people like Kevin Sabet and them. You know what I'm saying? They're actually out there right now running victory circles like they did something. You understand what I'm saying? And then when you look at, when it comes to our industry, our culture, you know, our voices are not as loud as they should, as they need to be. And the reason why I say that is because look at what the National Institute of Health did. They put something out to the world that if you consume cannabis, you're more susceptible to COVID-19. And that's all they said. And you understand what I'm saying? Now, the issue that I have with that is nobody from our side had a voice that was loud enough to say something in contrary or to even add to it. So that means that someone who is not us is leading the conversation. I got a problem with that. I got a real problem with that. You didn't hear not one operator say anything. You didn't hear not one cook, nobody.
That is true.
And that right there,
Right.
And when you got, and in our state, because this whole thing, like this thing made it onto our ballot, it made it out of committee and everything, the whole 9 yards, it made it onto the ballot before they shut everything down. So no matter what, we're going to be voting for this in November. Right. That is going to happen. Now, here's what the fallout from the COVID-19 crisis has been. The resources that would have been used to bring this to fruition after November has all been allocated to COVID-19, fighting that. All your inspectors, all those people are now, their duties are now to be on the front line to do something in some capacity. But whatever it is that they're doing, it has nothing to do with furthering the cannabis industry, even from a medical standpoint. So you got people in this state who are currently have applications in the queue waiting to be processed and everything, and that whole thing has just been halted. So now these people are bleeding money, waiting every month for the application process to pick up, and then they can find out if they got a license or not. So to Roz's point, it's the mitigation of the collateral damage is what we're trying to do. We're trying to mitigate it. The problem is that when you look at the collateral damage, just in trying to mitigate it is a monumental undertaking in of itself. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole lot of shit that's got to be fixed, bro.
Listen, guys, this is Happy Monkey Happy Hour with Vlad. So cheers. Like I told you, saying 60 minutes of 2020, this is Happy Hour with Vlad. Instead of alcohol, we spark a joint here.
Oh, Roz! Oh, shit! Roz got it! Oh, shit! Roz got it!
What you think? Come on, Roz, the queen of this. What you think it is? This ain't a game out here.
He know I don't smoke, but I knew I was gonna be on with you, Vlad, so I had to represent. So I said, listen.
And I appreciate you because that's what this show is about. It's like you guys know, because you guys on a lot of them, they have a lot of those corporate, politically correct ones and all that. This is not that. This is where, people really come, chill out, be themselves and talk about real life shit and not worried about being politically correct.
And I just want to give a shout out to Leo in your backdrop, brother.
He's styling. He's styling on us, Roz.
He's styling on us. He's out here with pictures and shit. He got the activist of the year, and then it flipped to something else. I said, it must be nice. He's
styling on us. Now I got a very important question. Now we gotta, like I said, it's a lot of doom and gloom out here. You know, people are stressed out, so I've been trying to keep people positive. So I want to talk about some better times and better memories. So I got a very important question for you too.
That's dope. You with all these backgrounds. I'm sorry, Vlad. He just killing me with the background. I love it.
I told you he been zooming all month. He got all kinds of stuff over there.
Hey, you been zooming your ass off. You don't got the background.
So what I want to ask you guys is that who was the first person to put you on about Happy Munkey, and what was your first experience like at Happy Munkey?
Well, I just tell you, because then I'm gonna let him tell you his experience. The first person is the person that's right here on this on After Hours with Happy Munkey. Let me tell you something. There is no better ambassador, no better supporter, no better just brother who loves on Happy Munkey more than Leo Bridgewater. And shout out to Jim Jones and his
That's the family. That's the family too.
I know that family. Shout out, brother. I know you don't know me from Adam House Cat, but I know you and appreciate the things that you're doing in the industry, and definitely want to get you on Cannabis Talk with Roz. But Leo told me, he's like, Roz, you gotta come because my boy Jim's there, and you got Vlad, you gotta meet all the folks and his family, and everybody gonna be there, and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you know, and normally when we have conferences and all this stuff that go on, I'm speaking and I'm tired and I'm exhausted afterwards. So normally I'm like, oh, you know what, Leo, I'm tired, I'm going to the room. He's like, no, you gotta come. He's like, it's so dope. And let me tell you something, guys, once all this stuff lifted, if you have never been in the atmosphere that is so dope, that is so it's better than anything that you can find in Vegas, LA, Atlanta. I mean, just the how you have it set up, the love is there, the environment where it don't matter where you come from, old, young, black, white, rich, poor, whatever. It's just nothing but love, and and then being able to just kind of do your thing or whatever. So Leo popped my cherry. And
now we family. Now we here. Now we part of family.
Now we family. But Leo popped a cherry for me, and after that, it's just nothing but love.
How about you, Leo? You walk me through who put you on, your first experience, and I mean, like I said, let's go back to the good old times.
We can't hear you.
Can't hear you, Leo. You started changing the backgrounds. You messed the sound up, Leo.
Yeah, sorry.
There you go.
The person who put me on is on here now too, Vladimir.
Okay.
And yeah, because I'm one of the co-founders of Canna Gather New Jersey, and we were doing Canna Gather events, and the entire Happy Munkey family would come to the Canna Gather events, and Vlad kept telling me, you gotta come. You know, this isn't right, Leo. This isn't right. You know, I'm always you should have been here, you part of the. And at the time, what Vlad didn't know that I was running back and forth because we had just had a baby. So when I would do these Canna Gather events, I had to run back to Jersey because I was on daddy duty, and this was all brand new. You know what I'm saying? And so once I was able to stay out longer, Vladimir came up to me one day. Can I tell him the story?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a happy hour with Vlad,
Vladimir comes up to me. Yeah. So Vladimir comes up to me and he says, Leo, I have an issue. Matter of fact, it was Vlad and who was with you?
I don't remember.
Somebody else with you. And you were arguing. And Vlad said, if you tell me otherwise, Leo, I'll do what you say. But these people want to come to the monkey. And I'm like, who? I'm like, and it turns out the people he were talking about was the governor's staff. And so I said to Vlad, I said, what? Oh, you show them everything. You give them the full tour. Because what you have to do is you have to be the one to change their frame of reference. You understand what I'm saying? Because right now, people in those situations, when they think about cannabis and everything, first thing that popped in their heads would be Cheech and Chong, and they had this in their mind. And I told him, I said, we need to change that whole thing. I needed to look like this. I needed to look like you. Yeah. I wanted you to be the new face of the franchise. And so, you Josh. You was with Josh. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so you left, and then you said you come in. I said, yeah, I'll be there tonight. You know what I'm saying? I had to go to the one spot after the cannon gather. I had to have a couple of meetings, and then I made it up to the Monkey. As I was coming in, the governor's people were leaving. And listen, so that meant they had been there for at least a couple of hours. Okay? And, you know, they were excited. They were happy. They were like, yo, this is okay. You know, and Vladimir looked at me. He said, brother, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have did that. But man, and then from there, it just took off. And it's like the Happy Munkey is like the Studio 54 of the cannabis industry in New York. And then you look at all of the people that come in, and you had all kinds of legends of industry. You know what I'm saying? So it was always like, yeah, you never knew who was going to be in the Happy Munkey. I mean, one day you walk in and goddamn, there's Roz McCarthy sitting there. Oh, snap. And that's how people was reacting. Like, oh shit, like what? You got Eric Range? You know what I'm saying? You had all these people, Chloe Villano, Joy Beckerman, you know what I'm saying? You see Danny Danko walking by, you know what I'm saying? Steve Bloom might come in there and yell at you for a minute. Kristen Jordan would want to hang out. You know what I'm saying? You got people like, you know, wasn't no big deal. I had Shalene Title in there with me one time. Like, what's up, man? Let's go. We gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? And everybody had a ball. It was like, yo, you never know who was gonna come up in there.
Yeah, it's good energy, good energy, just good people. And shout out to you, Vlad, for the goal. And this is what we got to do, guys. And listen to me good. We got to, and I'm not gonna ever not be focused on our participation, minority communities in this industry. We got to take a brand like Happy Munkey and we got to duplicate that sucker. And we got to wrap our arms around brands and Black and brown owned brands that are in the industry and figure out how do we duplicate them. Because at the end of the day, when consolidation happens and legalization happens, having our little individual names throughout and trying to get a little piece. There's brands right now that are doing great things. Let's figure out how to have a Happy Munkey in Chicago, a Happy Munkey in Miami, a Happy Munkey. It doesn't have to be Vlad that pushes it, but he then creates an opportunity business-wise for you to have an interest in a Happy Munkey and continue that whole vibe of what he's producing. If you think about it right now, if you want a cola, you got two type of colas that you're gonna get. You're gonna get
two types of cola.
Or you gonna get Coke. You ain't gonna get Roz's Cola. You ain't gonna get Leo's Cola. You'll get Pepsi. You're gonna get Coke. So we gotta figure out. We either gotta figure out: do you want to win on your own, or do you want to win together? Maybe under somebody else's name, but it's yours. You have ownership in it, and you guys are growing it together. And that's something that we gotta real talk.
It's better to have a little of something, Roz, than a lot of nothing, right?
Man, my mother used to tell me I'll take 100% of something. I will take a percentage of something versus 100% of nothing. And we are getting lost in the sauce if you don't realize that it's not about you naming or whatever. It's about you getting in, put the work in. You got to work hard. But if it's under somebody else's name, it doesn't mean that you don't own it just as much as that person as well. It just means that they have made traction. And why start from scratch when someone else has already paved the way for you and get caught up on the name? We get caught up on bullshit. Stop being caught up on bullshit. Look at the economics of it and the power. Can you imagine if you had 25 Happy Munkey brands throughout the country? How dope that would be, and how much ownership and how much we solidify from a consumption lounge perspective. We better get our shit together.
It's franchise.
And if we don't do it like that, just not Happy Munkey in all capacities in the industry, we don't stand a chance.
We don't stand a chance.
If we don't support each other, we don't stand a chance.
We got some beautiful brands like Simply Pure. Shout out to Wanda James, and you got Hope Wiseman with Marion James. And you got Dr. Shonda with the National Holistic I can't think of the rest of the name of her company. You got Al Harrington with Viola. If we don't wrap our arms around brands that already have made some traction and figure out, we should have 10 Marion Maines. We should have 15 Simply Pure.
You know, it's funny. I just had like 90% of those names on here the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Hope Wiseman, Al Harrington, all of them.
I'm serious, but real talk, we got to get off this BS about you. We want to, like, I want to have Roz's. I just had Shay Woon. Shay Woon is out of Massachusetts. Young brother who has a location in Oregon and has 3 licenses in Mass.
Elevate. Shayun Adita J.
Huh?
Shayun Adita J with Elevate.
Adita J. Yeah, Shay Woon Adita J. Smart brother. He was just on my show Friday. Dope. Who all he wants to do is once he lays his foundation retail operations down, he wants to open it up. And if people want to bring a Elevate Cannabis to your community, he'll help you do it and take only 3%, just like a franchise model. If y'all don't, why would you start from scratch when you have something that this guy's going to partner with you, lay down, show you how to apply for it, show you how to get your access to capital, give you your policy and procedures, help you develop your SOPs, help you be able to get through the bullshit, and then you have ownership of something, and then you take it from there. Come on now, I'm serious. Real talk. We got to get our stuff together. And I'm calling out all the brands. Our brands are out there. Al, Wanda. We got gosh, who else? And
I want to shout out Christina De La Rosa from the People's Dispensary. Also woman of color.
People's Dispensary have, again, another woman of color. If we don't go and wrap our arms around brands that are already out there, they're already doing it, we're going to get lost in the sauce. And so that's my my challenge for all of us and coming together, and let's have that conversation.
I agree. I mean, it's why keep recreating the wheel when you could just make one go faster? And that's the thing, and it's also a way for us to identify who's who. You know what I'm saying? That FUBU about it, the for us, by us thing, that shit is real.
You know more
you
about that.
And so it's sort of kind of like, when we look at, you see how it was when we went to Miami, Vlad. You see what I'm saying? And then you see how it was when we go to Chicago. You know what I'm saying? And now we're talking about what, a West Coast tour? You see what I'm saying? So to Roz's larger point, you know what I'm saying? It's not like people don't know who you are. You know what I'm saying? It's what you do with it. Once you find out everybody knows who you are or need to know.
Right.
So she's right. When it comes to franchising opportunities and all that stuff, and the best part about it is that it's wholly owned by people of color.
That is the key.
That's right. So I mean, I just impress upon us to figure this stuff out, and to get. And so, if you're in a state right now, and there is any type of conversation about consumption lounge, and you want to have a piece of it, don't try to make your own. Reach out to Vladimir and be like, Vlad, I got a.
That's what I'm doing.
I'm telling you, and let us breathe life into this brand. That it don't matter if you start the name. You have a name and a following, and we can replicate that. And so that's all I'm saying.
1,000%. I got another important question for y'all right now that I've been watching, and I really want to know you two specifically what your opinion is. What would you guys say to the people that are sitting in a cell, which we all know majority look like us, doing long-term sentences for cannabis, and they turn on the news and they see cannabis deemed essential and corporate people benefiting off of it while they're sitting doing long-term sentences? Yeah. What do you guys think about that?
What do we say to them?
No, I'm just trying to say, just talking about it, it's like, these are the fallen soldiers. I always try to bring awareness because we can't forget about them, even though things are moving forward and it's great, but we always got to look back and remember, can't forget about these people.
Well, you call them, we call them pioneers of this industry. They're pioneers from sometimes you do what you got to do in order to take care of your family and feed your family. And the fact that 30 years ago, it wasn't deemed as cannabis was an essential service, and the fact that now it's an essential services, nothing changed with the plant. And it's just now with people being more accepting, you now have people go, oh, well, we didn't realize, but we realized it 30 years ago. We realized it 40 years ago when we had Uncle Tim, who was, if you didn't make sure he was able to smoke some, would go, he would lose it. Because guess what? He was dealing with mental issues and cannabis was the only thing that helped balance him out. And we didn't know that, but in the hood, in the family, you knew you had to give him a little something to help balance him out. So long story short, what do you say to those individuals? It's nothing you can say. I think the thing about it is that we need to, as activists and as advocates, keep pushing for releasing individuals. I call it release and repair. They don't want to hear us talking. They want to hear us action. They want someone to step up. And let me tell you something. And the only way that happens is, and Leo, he referenced it, in 6 months, if we don't get our behinds out and vote, policy is the dictator to get people out and change the game and get people out of prison. If you want to change policy, go vote. If you want to, and then from there, you got to advocate and lobby and say, okay, listen, this is an issue that I want to address. But if we don't change the policy from a political standpoint and from a legislative standpoint, so that one, we're not still being incarcerated. If we don't have people in place who can sign an executive order and say that if you have a marijuana offense for possession, you're going to be released, that's an executive order. That's stroking a pen. You can have someone that literally strokes a pen and says, if you have a possession charge, adjudication withheld, or if you're still being, locked up for this, you can be released. And so we have to understand the political game as much as we are also talking about, I want social justice. People don't want to hear talk; they want to hear action.
Well said, Roz. Well said. How about you, Leo?
The first thing I would say to those folks in prison, okay, serving time and seeing this, is that I would say to them that I understand how this looks to you, but I promise you, you will have a place here when you get out, and we're working to get you out now. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what's happening. I mean, should we do more? Absolutely. And should there be more of us doing it? Absolutely. But the issue is like Roz said, you know what I'm saying? We got to get out there and vote. And not only do we have to get out there and vote, but it is incumbent upon us, Vladimir. It's incumbent upon all of us to identify who the people are we need to be backing. It's not just voting, it's who we vote for. So we need to start
and holding them accountable for what we want and making sure that they are going to deliver when we do put them in there.
And if they don't, then we need to go find our own people to elevate and put in office. You know what? I don't like none of these people. Okay? So you know what? Here's what the cannabis culture is going to do. And because here's the thing, our tribe may be small, but we are everywhere.
We're everywhere.
We are everywhere. You understand what I'm saying? And which means that we are capable of making the kinds of fights that people like us don't know that need to be fought. All they need to know is, who do we go vote for? Because now, at this point, when you got such a society that's such an instant gratification type of society, it's very difficult to get people to think beyond themselves. And that's what these times are. And so if we're going to be smart, let's be all the way smart. Fuck it. Let's get our own politicians in there. The ones we know for sure that does what we need, that speak for us.
And Vlad, it's almost like we need to reproduce Schoolhouse Rock and remind people how laws are changed, how things are done, how you can elect a governor who, if you have a governor that says, listen, if I'm legalizing, if you want me, Mr. Tobacco Company and pharmaceutical company, to legalize adult use in the state, then I'm also going to make sure that I repair some of the harm done. They have an option of doing it, and you have to find those individuals and like you said, Vlad, hold them accountable. It's almost like we need to revisit, I'm just a bill sitting on Capitol Hill. What does it mean to create laws, and how do you create laws? What happens when it goes through committee? What's an executive order? Who can write it? Who can't? I mean, all that stuff. I mean,
it's a civics lesson. Everybody.
The reason I brought it up, guys, is because yesterday my last episode was with Andrew and Steve D'Angelo. You guys know they have the Last Prisoner Project We were talking about this, and I just feel like, you know, that part of the action is, you know, keeping people aware about it. And like you said, like, you know what I mean, making sure that we don't forget, even though we're pushing forward, not to look back and bring back the fallen soldiers, you know?
Well, you know, and shout out to them in the Last Prisoner Project. But what I want to see is, if you got the Last Prisoner Project and you have someone like Steve D'Angelo, who is a multimillionaire in his own right, and you've created this nonprofit or what have you, what are you doing? And you got to coordinate and work with community-based organizations like M4MM, like Hood Incubator, like the folks that have been on the ground level. You can't come into a situation that we've been pushing and struggling for and not have some coordination and saying, what are you doing besides the PSAs, and we got the Last Prisoner Project? What's your agenda? Inform us, educate us, bring us in the loop or whatever, because it's not going to be something that happens just on your own strength if you're really serious about it. It's going to take a village to make the changes, and also to introduce the reason why it's important. And I think if that is their focus, and I challenge them to reach out to these organizations and bring us to the fold to say, listen, we need to hear from you guys as well. You've been shouting this thing. We now are taking this as our priority. How do we work together? And if we don't do that, because it's more Black and brown people behind bars than any. And so I just, you know,
that's true.
I'm pretty passionate about that.
I think the strategic partnerships is what is really what it's all about, especially at this point. You see what I'm saying? Especially particularly when you're looking at this particular time in time. No matter what, every day, bro, every day, all of us are walking in historical times right now. And listen, none of us are going to be here to see the penthouse of our work. None of us.
You always told me that, and I believe
we're not going to be here. Yeah, we're picking right now. We're picking the new old names. At one time, Budweiser and Anheuser-Busch were all new names. That's this now. That's where we at right now. And the thing is that when you're at such an infancy stage, what is required is what requires us to think beyond ourselves. We got to think like 3-4 generations. And the shit that we got in place got to make sense for them. And if it don't, there needs to be mechanisms in place so that they can make those changes in order to make sense. Then, right. You see what I'm saying? Because we are all trapped by the technology of our time, and we are also trapped by the thinking of another time.
I've always said in my lifetime, I will not see the breadth and depth of what's going to happen with this industry. I'm grateful, and I know that this is by divine order. This is not Roz. It's not like I'm just a smart person. I knew when to get in. This was something that, you know, by divine order, it was like, you're the chosen person that's going to help shed a light on. You're going to do this, and I will not see the breadth and depth of where this industry is going to go, the opportunities it's going to afford, the new medicines that are going to come from it, the way it's going to change, just the paradigm shift of how we've looked at this plant and where we're going, you know, thus forward.
Vladimir, do you really think Anheuser-Busch imagined that Clydesdales will be kicking bottles of their beer on TV during the Super Bowl when they first got started? Yeah. You think they even imagine that? Hell no. They didn't have TV then. They ain't have radio then. Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Just think about Prohibition. You know, you watch the movies like Untouchables, and they talked about like they had the high stuff, and look at it now. We have celebrities. We have, the casualness of alcohol in that industry, and let's be sure that there has to be a conversation with our youth about the use of cannabis. But just like we tell our youth that you have alcohol and there is some things that you touch and some things that you don't touch, yep. We can still have that conversation. We don't have to hide the fact that if you consume, I consume because of X, Y, and Z. It all stems back to medical. If you say, I got anxiety, I got stress, that's a medical issue. You have stress, you have anxiety that's caused by something, be it physical or be it environmental, but you choose cannabis as your defense to help you feel better. If something makes you feel better, then it has a medical efficacy. And that's the conversation that we have to have with our kids, to understand that this is not for you to get high and to play off of or whatever, because that highness is a culmination of terpenes, cannabinoids, THC, that make you feel better, that relieves that stress. And yes, you get a highness that goes with it, but the science of this plant, and shout out to Dr. Monica Tang, Dr. Joseph Delgado.
Oh yeah.
Another monkey family member. See what I'm saying?
Roz, I want to be the first on record here to talk about the reason why Vlad used his medical reason, which I believe needs to be, everybody should be able to use this reason that really has it. Vlad uses cannabis because he grew up in a rough urban neighborhood and he has urban PTSD. So why shouldn't he be able to smoke a joint?
And fire it up, Vlad.
Let me say this real quick. Take the D off of it. We're officially dropping the D too. Yes.
What do you guys think about that though, right? Like you guys know how it is growing up in rough circumstances. Yeah. You know, you go through things, you see things. How isn't that considered something that you should be able to use cannabis for?
Shout out to Kebra Smith Bolton, who used to be our Connecticut chapter president, and her business Canna Health. And about a year and a half ago, she did a whole in-person community forum on urban PTSD. And basically, there were discussions of people that utilize cannabis to help deal with their trauma. Their trauma range everything from gunfire to violence to sexual assault, child abuse. I mean, environment. If you live in Inglewood, California, and every night around between 9 p.m. and 2 o'clock in the morning, you hear this about helicopters and gunfire, you don't think that doesn't create disorders and stress and anxiety, that you have to use something to be able to cope? And so she did a fantastic job of really bringing that to the forefront. We have to do more education about urban PTS. And if you want to drop the D, we can drop the D. But post-traumatic stress disorder was the official term of it. Yeah. We need to have more conversation about it from the urban perspective.
Well said, Roz. And that was my point. That's why I said it, you know?
I will say this, though. I take a really broad, perspective to things, because I feel like, I'm a big believer in swinging the big stick and swinging it early. And from a patient perspective, is why I'm all for adult use. Because I do believe when you have adult use, you're going to reach the most people. It's about getting what's the biggest and the broadest way to get the medicine to the people. Now, here's the thing. I don't make a distinction between adult use, recreational, and medical. I don't. I believe all consumption is medicinal, to be quite honest with you. But I also realize that there are, no matter what, regardless of what kind of medical marijuana program you got, everybody who needs this is not going to want to go put their name on any kind of list, right? Especially when it comes to people of color, because we're natural conspiracy theorists. Look at what this country is doing to us, and this COVID-19 is proving a lot of conspiracy theories.
But sometimes we got to get out that BS, because let me tell you something.
I agree.
When legalization happens, currently right now, cannabis is a Schedule 1, is listed on a Schedule 1 controlled substance list.
Which is insane.
We're going to the Supreme Court, Roz.
I know. I saw it. Congratulations. I saw it. I saw it. That's good.
Forgot to tell you, Vlad, we're going to the Supreme Court.
If you were even to reschedule that to a Schedule 3, you know what a Schedule 3 is? Tylenol with codeine.
Yep.
And basically, a physician can write an order and say that this is a Schedule 3 drug, but if you use it the way it's prescribed, then you can go ahead and use it. I guess what I'm trying to say is that we can't get so caught up in conspiracy theories that we don't realize that when legalization or descheduling or rescheduling happens, it's going to open up the door for you to have conversations with a physician or someone. If you're not familiar with this plant, you got some people that know it and they got friends, but there's a whole big pie, a whole big slice of life that has no clue. And they have so much bad stigma and so you need someone. Sometimes those people need a physician to be able to help break that stigma. And if you're able to not only see a physician who now doesn't have to be a recommending physician, it's just any physician who can write the order, that's one. How about then you can get your medicine paid for, because now Medicaid,
So
Medicare pay for your
insurance,
medicine right through insurance. Insurance.
Yep.
So you trying to tell me that we don't have to have a, if you don't even have to have a medical card. If they were to reschedule, or I'm sorry, if they were to reschedule, you wouldn't even need a medical card.
Deschedule.
Well, I mean, so descheduling means, well, yeah, so if you deschedule. So long story short, all I'm saying is that there's things that can be done at the federal level that then knocks out this data listing thing and all this other kind of crap that becomes a barrier for people to go and look at and to see if this is an option for them. That's all.
Right.
Now, guys, I got another interesting question, because like I tell you, this is happy hour. This ain't 20 minutes, 60 minutes, none of that. I want to know from both of y'all your most memorable cannabis experience, whether it's edible or flower. Just, I know you guys have been around the world and back. Something that's memorable, stands out to you, experience, time you had, whatever.
Woo.
I'll tell you a funny one. So I get all the time, I have people like, oh, how you start an organization about cannabis and you don't consume? I said, I just don't, but I believe in it. I learned about the plant. I don't. When I went to your spot, I mean, I just don't. It's not anything against anybody else, but I went to Planet 13, right, in Vegas, right? So anybody's been to Planet 13. So when you go to Planet 13, if you've ever been there before, it's like the high end. It's better than the Walmart of cannabis retail. It's so much stuff. It's all nice and it's like
Apple. It looks like an Apple store.
Oh, it's an Apple store. It's so plush. Customer service. So I got all caught up. I'm like, well, you know what? I don't really smoke, and I don't want to vape. I'm like, let me get an edible. So I got these little gummy edibles, right? So they were like a pack of 10. They were little squares, about this big, maybe that big. So I had to go off from there, from Vegas. I went to Oakland. So I had one of my friends was there. His father picked me up. I spent the night, and the next day I had to go. Well, I was outside of Oakland. I had to go down into San Francisco. So I was like, oh, I need a little, I thought I had the kind of edible that was gonna give me a little So I was like, I need a little this morning. I'm feeling tired. So I take half of the gummy and I eat it, right? So I'm getting dressed. I'm all like, all right, cool. I'm getting dressed. I'm like, well, shit, that didn't do shit, right? I'm like, because mind you, I don't consume, and I have no idea about how to consume an edible. So I take the other half of the gummy and I eat that. So then about 15, 20 minutes later, we're headed to the train station for me to take BART into the city, right? So I'm getting out the car and I go to get my Clipper card to get in the BART, and I'm like looking at the machine, and I was like, fuck, what am I doing? I'm like, I couldn't remember. I was like, okay, all right. And so I had to put my head down. I was like, okay. I'm like, okay, where am I going? So I looked at the screen and I'm like, okay, all right. And so I try again. I get the Clipper card. I get on the BART. And so I'm on the little BART that takes you to the big BART. As soon as that thing starts taking off, it starts whirling like this. I'm on the BART. My brain, I'm swirling. I'm swirling. It was like crazy. And then the little BART drops you off like about 3 miles down the street, and then you take the big BART to go back into the city. I get on the big BART, and the whole time I just felt like the whole thing was just spinning. And I'm in BART, and I'm literally like with my head down, like out of it. It was so freaking. I was like an out of body experience. It took me about 3 hours before I felt like, I was like, okay, now I feel better. So
that was a good one, Roz.
It was cool. I mean, it was interesting. I've had other experiences, but I will say this. If you're new to the plant, there's efficacy with edibles, but when they say start low, go slow.
Micro.
And even when you have something that's this big, you think that's not much, but it is. And so I should have stopped at a half and waited 45 minutes to an hour. But after 15 minutes, I thought, okay, well, I'm not feeling anything different. And it put me into a little tailspin. So that was my lesson. And hopefully you will learn from me. Don't do what I do.
Thank you for sharing, Roz. That was great. Now, I want you to hear Leo, because Leo's been around the block a few times. Right?
Yeah, he's been around the block.
Many adventures.
Okay, I'll give you one. I'll give you a good one, too. So, at this point now, I'm so out of the closet. There's no defense contractor who's going to ever give me a security clearance ever again. And so my background is in DoD telecommunications. So for a long time, I used to live and work in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so for a number of years, I would only come home for a month once a year. Because if you spend more than 300 days out of the 330 days out of the continental United States, the first 94.5 of your salary is tax free. You know what I'm saying? So so I was doing that for a number of years. But whenever I would come home, I would always fly through Amsterdam. And so this one time every time I came home, I would come home or I'd go through Amsterdam. I'd get me some good stuff, you know what I'm saying? And then what I would do is I would mail myself some stuff in Iraq. and it would get there. And so my most memorable moments came when I would be out in the middle of Joint Base Balad in northern Iraq, you know, inside of a microwave shelter, you know, with a nice little rolled up, you know what I'm saying, blunt, and, you know what I'm saying, watching F-16s and C-5s coming in and seeing the, you know, mortar rounds and all that stuff, you know. So yeah, those were my most memorable moments. And then I would also get a gallon of Mott's apple cider and dump it out and change it for some Hennessy.
No, Leo, but I think that story was very important right there. Even though it was an amazing, memorable one, it's also important for the people to know that, you know, you serve this country. Thank you for your service, and that when you are the outreach, you know, director of the country, it's because, you know, you're not only, you know, talking, you walked it, you know what I mean? Meaning like you understand what these veterans are going through and what their mental state is.
Yeah, I just did, you know, like helping out with a couple of dispensaries right here in New Jersey, and talking about and figuring out ways to help to mitigate, you know, operation costs and stuff. And part of that is, you know, tapping into your veteran community, because it turns out, you know, I started working with the Department of Labor here. And because turns out the Department of Labor was really trying to figure out how do they get involved? What is this? What happens? What do you do? How does any of this? And so I started talking with them, and then we started talking about vocational rehab. And rehab is something where if you're a veteran, you know what I'm saying, then it's basically if you're having a change of career, or you're needing college or anything like that, then you go to the VA and they deem you as a voc rehab person. So now what happens is that if you're a dispensary owner or cultivation owner, whatever business owner, it doesn't matter, but particularly in the cannabis industry, then what happens is the Department of Labor sends their veteran population, their veteran cases to your establishment. And then if you hire them, then what that does is now that brings the VA involved. That brings the VA, and the VA can say, okay, Mr. Business Owner, what does this veteran need to do? What supplies does this veteran need, or tools does this veteran need to do their job? And you tell them whatever it is that they need. They need gloves, they need gowns, they need whatever. What happens is the VA goes out and buys that stuff. Not you, but the VA. And then 6 months later, the VA comes back to you, dispensary owner, and they say, okay, dispensary owner, because you hired this veteran, what does this veteran need to do in order to advance in your company? And you, business owner, are going to say, oh, well, Vladimir needs to go to Cloverleaf University, and he needs to take he needs a degree in cultivation or horticulture or something like that. Then
the VA is going to pay for that.
The VA takes that veteran, and they go to Amsterdam. They pay out. They do the work. The veteran you get accepted. The VA pays for your tuition. And the way they do that is that they reroute post 9/11 and Montgomery GI Bill funds to voc rehab. And so now, not only do they pay your tuition, but you're also, based on your zip code, will determine how much of your housing stipend that they're going to give you as well. Ooh. And then they're going to take you, veteran, and they're going to take you shopping. And what they're going to do is they're going to buy you your computer, your printer, your paper, your extra ink cartridges, your fucking book bags, your computer bag. They buy everything. And then you go back and you get that degree, and then you now as the business owner, you also get a tax break for hiring
veterans.
And it compounds per veteran. So these are all the things that you can do to mitigate, you know what I'm saying, costs when it comes to running a actual business. And that's
while at the same time making a positive impact and hiring a veteran. So it's like win-win across the board.
At the end of the day, no matter what, if that veteran should ever leave, he is going to leave, or she is going to leave better than when they came to you.
Sorry, I missed that. Could you?
Now I got a question. I got a question for you guys, because I would tell you my opinion first, and then you guys tell me yours. See, I see this period, guys, not just the cannabis industry, society as a whole. I feel like this era we living in right now, this COVID era, is gonna be like in the Bible when it was BC and AD. I feel like it's gonna be like pre-COVID, post-COVID. Do you remember what we used to do before COVID? I feel like it's gonna be that big of a time in history where it's gonna separate things like that. So my question for you guys is, what do you guys see cannabis industry pre-COVID, cannabis industry post-COVID, new normal? What do you guys see? Like, what do you guys see happening in the industry that's gonna be different from before to then?
And I'll make it simple as we, you know, I know we've been together for a while here, and I gotta get ready to wrap up, and it's a little late on my end, but I will tell you this: pre-COVID was individualism, post-COVID working together, collaboration.
I like that. That's why I like it, Roz. You hit it with the 1-2 boom. I'll
keep it simple, keep it gully. It's gonna be all about working together, collaboration, finding your tribe on the real tip. I will tell you, since we've been in the COVID, there have been there's a lot of times that our Black and brown organizations, they try to, in the cannabis industry, they try to have us pit against one another. Yes. I've had more substantive dialogues with other different organizations that didn't happen before pre-COVID that are happening now, that are going to turn into something so fruitful post-COVID. Yeah. And I'm so grateful for that opportunity. So that's what I see happening.
I like that. Thank you. For sharing. How about you, Leo?
I think pre-COVID, you know, I agree, the individualism, you know, but then I also when I think about pictures, you know, I will say that, you know, the monkey, you know what I'm saying, my times at the Happy Munkey. You know what I'm saying? Like when you write the history books and stuff, because at least our history books will have videos, moving pictures, and still pictures and everything like that. And if you go back and look at it, you'll catch a lot of industry legends before they were who they're going to become. You know what I'm saying? There's somewhere in there, Roz McCarthy was at the Happy Munkey, and God knows how far from now, but somebody's going to be like, "Oh my God, you knew?" Yeah. Because those are because then she's going to be a historical figure at that point. You see what I'm saying?
And you know the other thing, Vlad and Leo, that I think is interesting, and we were using, as an organization, we've been using Zoom as a webinar, as a way to interact with people and to actually teach and learn way before COVID. And I'm just going to be honest, it was an inexpensive way for us to deliver education, outreach, and connectivity without having to try to figure out how to afford it, you know, and be in person. I think there's going to be pre-COVID has been in person, but I think post-COVID more virtual, more enhanced technology that really improve the virtual experience. I think people are going to figure out how can we take what we now see that can really work and even improve upon it more so. So I'm interested in finding out how that's going to rock out as we continue this journey.
It's definitely made people more creative. It forced people to get creative.
Creativity at its best, and if you're able, and what you're doing is you're able to hit more people. So now my question to you, Vlad, is after post-COVID, will you always continue to have a Happy Munkey After Dark, this type of talk show? Because if so, then you have now, added another facet to Happy Munkey that wasn't even in your peripheral before.
That is 1,000% correct. Now I know you gotta go, Roz, so I'm gonna end you guys off with the $1 million question I ask everybody that's ever come on the Happy Hour. I want to know you guys' opinion and what word will you guys use? Everybody, we ask is, if you had to describe Happy Munkey, the brand, the movement, the place, whatever, in one word, what would it be and why? Start with you, Leo.
Family, and because I love.
Family, because you love it.
No, because of love. It's all
because
love.
Of love.
Yeah. It's much more personal for me than the average view. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Not everybody who's a happy, like, there are people say I'm a Happy Munkey family member, but not really. You know what I'm saying? Roz, the other day, Lashana said to me, when you gonna go be with your Dominican relatives? And she was talking about Vlad and Ramon. You see what I'm saying?
How about you, Roz? I'm interested in your one word, Roz.
Yeah,
and why.
I mean, so for you to make me say one, try to figure it out in one word is too difficult. So I'm just going to take the privilege of just going. And I wrote down, when you said that, when you asked that question, I wrote down, I always have, whenever I'm on Zoom, I always have my notepad. So I wrote down this. I wrote down peace, love, soul, community, safety, oneness. And it goes, it's, I felt safe. I felt community. The music was off the chain. Music is such music brings us together as a community. And so you had that music piece of it. I felt there was love in the room, and it was just peaceful. It was just cool. So I know you asked for one, but that's how I have to give it to you.
I like it. And listen, it's all about the thought that counts, and we appreciate it. Now, guys, I want to thank both of you guys. I know you guys both busy doing a lot of things, especially, now in these times. I know you're busy on the phone and virtually. So thank you guys for taking out the time to come on Happy Hour with me. It's an honor. You guys are some of the reasons that inspired me and Happy Munkey to know that's possible somebody of color like me to make it happen, because, people like you guys that have been making it happen before me. So that gives me the energy to win, like I said.
Hey, Vlad, you're a national treasure, dude. You're a national treasure in this industry, in this movement. I challenge. We got other national treasures. We have the Wandas. We have the Hopes of the game. We have people that we got Jesse Horton, who's out in Portland. He's a national treasure. He's been in the game. He's done it. He has something to lend to us. And I challenge people, if you want to get in this game, this cannabis game, find the Leos and the Vladimirs and figure out how to get in and where to get in and where to fit in. So, brother, as much as you appreciate us, we appreciate you as you set the standard. And I definitely want to get in on a Happy Munkey brand somewhere. In some state, I want to be able to say I have an ownership in your brand.
Yep. That's an honor. Thank you for those kind words. Now, I want both you guys to tell the people whatever you have coming up now in the near future and where to find you guys, because some of the people here, follow Happy Munkey don't know about all the amazing things you guys are doing. So I want them to follow up and check you guys out.
Absolutely. Both of us is the M for MM family. So if you don't know what it stands for, it's Minorities for Medical Marijuana. M as in Mary, the number 4, M as in Mary, United.org. We're on Instagram, M for MM United, Facebook, M for MM United, Twitter, M for MM United. I'm on LinkedIn, Roz McCarthy. You can catch me every Friday on Facebook Live, Can I Talk with Roz? And if nothing else, text M4MM to 420 for the latest of updates, news, and then we got prize giveaways. We're starting to give away stuff. We got M for MM swag. I got T-shirts.
I need my stuff, Roz. I ain't got my stuff, Roz.
I got you, but I'll put a package together for you.
That's my fault. I take full responsibility for that. That's my fault. So
Leo, tell them anything you want to know, anything to look out for you, where to find you, etc., etc.
Yeah, well, again, thank you again for having me. You can find me, Leo Bridgewater, everything from Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, is Leo Bridgewater. And then you also find me at Rain Media, REINE media.com. Be ready, May 1st, we're going to be launching our Cannabis channel. So, it's going to be room for everybody. Because I believe at this point, us having as many platforms as we can to amplify, our voices is what's really going to be needed in this critical time in the next 6 months. So I'm happy to be partnering up with folks like Venture Hive and CWCB Expo and Shauna Virtual on a number of different projects that we'll be bringing to fruition in the next couple of weeks. Hence why I've been burning the candle at both ends.
You do what you gotta do, brother.
Hey,
we love you, Vlad. Thank you for having us on.
It's an honor. I want everybody out there to know, I know we're dealing with some tough times, but you guys are all too blessed to be stressed. These amazing people drop some amazing knowledge for you guys to stay positive. Remember, checking out here from the Happy Hour with Vlad. Things will get greater later. Peace, love, and happiness. Till the next episode, guys. Love you.
Yeah, we do this for the people, not we do this for the culture, right?
Yeah, we do it for the culture. We don't do it for the clout. We do it for the culture.
Culture.
That's right.
We don't want any clout. We just want the culture to come up. That's all we want.
Yeah, I love you, Roz.
That's it.
Love you guys.
I love you, Vlad.
Thank you again, guys. It was an honor, man. I miss you guys. Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. Make sure you hug Ramon and David for me. Everybody over there for me, please.
Roz, I want to get on Canada Talk with Roz too. I got to get my shot out of too.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you run it too. We're gonna run it. We're gonna talk about live shit. We're gonna run it soon. See you guys.
Thank you.
All right, y'all, later.